As vegans, we often lead with our ethics. We really love to make sure that the businesses that we build really align with what we believe in the world and how we want to change the world. But being able to do that in a business can be challenging, especially when you have an established business that's successful. Our guest actually had a family business that had been very successful. And when he decided, him and his father, to change course, to actually go that vegan route, not only was it difficult and challenging, it was truly an eye-opening experience. And I think you're going to love hearing their story. More importantly, I think you're going to love hear how they created success from that challenging journey, how they found their way forward, how they built a customer base, and how they created kind of a reliable following, not only around having a vegan alternative, but ultimately a vegan alternative that required, or I would say provided, not only the quality that people expected, but now they yearn for. So we're going to be talking about vegan silk. I know it sounds so crazy, but yes, we're going to dive into the business. We're going to dive into the brand. We're going to talk about the journey. And for many of you out there, we're going to talk about how possible it is to transition your business. If you're thinking about transitioning your business to a vegan business, learn from our guest on how he did it as well. As vegans, we often lead with our ethics. We really love to make sure that the businesses that we build really align with what we believe in the world and how we want to change the world. But being able to do that in a business can be challenging, especially when you have an established business that's successful. Our guest actually had a family business that had been very successful. And when he decided, him and his father, to change course, to actually go that vegan route, not only was it difficult and challenging, it was truly an eye-opening experience. And I think you're going to love hearing their story. More importantly, I think you're going to love hear how they created success from that challenging journey, how they found their way forward, how they built a customer base, and how they created kind of a reliable following, not only around having a vegan alternative, but ultimately a vegan alternative that required, or I would say provided, not only the quality that people expected, but now they yearn for. So we're going to be talking about vegan silk. I know it sounds so crazy, but yes, we're going to dive into the business. We're going to dive into the brand. We're going to talk about the journey. And for many of you out there, we're going to talk about how possible it is to transition your business. If you're thinking about transitioning your business to a vegan business, learn from our guest on how he did it as well. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast series, Pivot. I'm so excited to have here today our guest because we're going to be talking about the fashion industry. Oh, the fashion industry can be a tricky one for many of us that are vegan for a lot of different ways, not only because of how the materials are sourced, but also the struggle between, the way things were and the way things should be. Also, as many of us who are vegans, we are concerned about sustainable practices. So while we still want to look good, we still want to shine, we do want to make sure we are aware of how our choices make impacts on the environment. And our guest today is giving us all an avenue and really even a peek into the world of something that as a vegan, I didn't think I would really be saying, the idea of vegan silk. I know plenty of you probably have a ton of questions when I say that. So we will get to it. Our guest today will break all of that down. But what I want to do is make sure as you're kind of going into today's session, I want you to think about how the world has changed, how people like my guest have really become pioneers in helping us not only make sure that the fashion industry comes in line with many of the ethical things that many of us as vegan, it's important to us, but also many of us who are entrepreneurs that are trying to shift. Many of you out there that maybe had a traditional non-vegan business and tried to turn it into a vegan business or go into a vegan space. I'm really hoping our guest today is going to give you some insights into how he did it and how maybe some of his insights can help you as well. So let me say welcome, welcome, welcome. Sandeep, it's wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be on this podcast with you, Stephanie.
So, before we jump into all the questions I have, let's back up. Let's give people a little bit of background. Let's give people a little bit of background on what you've done. Because I have all my notes here and I know you've been in this industry for years. And then you really started to look for, a sustainable solution. But I don't want to give away all the good stuff in the story. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you. And if you could just give people a little bit of background, your experience, how you got started and why you made that transition over to exploring options on, not only bringing sustainability to the fashion industry, but specifically around the idea of silk and having a vegan silk product.
Yeah, so I have a family background which is in textile. My dad started the textile business in 1999. And being in India, silk is a very prime and very ritualistic wear because it is used in weddings and all kinds of religious occasions. So the business started by my dad, and I joined in 2007, and I scaled up the silk business to a very massive turnover, and we were making huge revenues. But then when I started seeing the process of making of silk, I started feeling guilty. As you know, that silk filaments are extracted by boiling silkworm cocoons, and once they start boiling, they can be the filament can be extracted from the cocoon, and then they reel up and then they convert it to yarn, and then from there it is woven to fabrics to everybody's choice and as per the fashion icons. Now, at least for 100 grams of silk, you need to boil 2,000 to 3,000 silkworms. And somewhere down the line, that hit me hard. It was very hard. The intensity was so hard that I was not able to do my business on day-to-day basis. And from 2016 to 2017, I was thinking to quit this business and start something which is more ethical, sustainable. And since um, I'm a Jain. Jain is a religion which only practices non-violence. And from my birth, I have been taught to not even kill even a small ant. So I was feeling somewhere down the line that I was a hypocrite. For my business, I was not following my values. And that's how, the conscious was not allowing me. And in 2018, me and my dad decided to close all the silk contracts with the silk weavers and start this new brand, which is 100% cruelty free. And we use only cruelty free yarns to make all our garments, clothing, and the traditional Indian silk sari as well. So this was the transition, and it's now going to be 7 years since we are running this brand very strongly, and we are seeing a huge scope for the coming years. Yes, of course, the beginning 3 to 4 years till the COVID and post COVID, it was a very challenging phase. But last 2 years, there has been a huge shift among the Gen Zs. They are more conscious in their lifestyle, in their shopping, in their diet, and all their aspects. And all these young minds and youngsters started searching for our brand, and they start uh, venturing into our store for their wedding. One of the most important value which they try to follow is all these brides who come to my store for their wedding trousseau. They tell me that, Sandeep, I don't want to start my life journey by, harming any other living being. So my journey the new journey from my wedding, it has to be pure, ethical, and not at cost of 10 years life. So this is one of the most inspiring value and thoughts which I've learned in this 7 years by doing the vegan business. I mean, this is making me stronger day by day.
That is a wonderful story to hear because I think for a lot of people, they're, they feel stuck sometimes in the way things were before or what we've done before. And it's also pretty scary. I'm sure, that transition at that time when you were moving away with you and your father kind of making that leap, you almost sometimes are taking a leap of faith because you don't know what it's going to be like on the other side. And this isn't necessarily an industry, that's been like up and running for 50 plus years, and you were just jumping into it. You really are helping build it. So I really commend you for taking the leap. And also, I love what you shared about that experience, where people are thinking about, starting their new life, starting, especially things like weddings and so forth. These are big celebrations, and when we start those celebrations and include in those celebrations our ethics, I think that is a beautiful thing because that's something that we can continue through our lives. So I'm sure she was delighted that you could help her with that. So let's give people more insight into the business today. Um, Give me a sense of what types of fabrics, what types of options, colors, and also, what's available. Someone's coming into your shop. We talked about the weddings as an example, but what are some of the other reasons people may be either coming in, looking for fabrics, or getting fabrics shipped to them?
Yeah. So first, I would like to tell you what are my alternates to the traditional silk. So in our store, we offer plant-based silk. And when I say plant-based silk, it is nothing but uh, elements and fibers extracted from wood pulp is the first primary source. And in recent time, there has been a huge development in the textile by countries like Australia and Japan, where they are trying to extract silk filaments from cotton lint turf, and the company is called Asahi, who has patented this yarn in the name of Denver. So we are trying to use even those yarns because they are highly sustainable. Both they are plant based as well as they are sustainable also. So this is one kind of source which we are using for silk. The second source is artificial silk. It's nothing but filaments and fibers extracted from petrochemical based products like polyester and nylon. So these two are the yarns which are majorly used in offering the alternates to the customers who step into our store. And in our store, we majorly cater to the Indian ethnic wear because, as I said to you, in India, weddings is the place where silk is used in huge numbers. Like all the wedding occasions, they are using silk saris or they're using silk gowns or silk, you know, dresses. So my aim is to offer exact feel and output and texture from these two alternates, the plant-based and the man-made fiber artificial based. And as I'm talking about these two sources, the plant-based are natural based, so they are biodegradable. At the same time, they are natural also. But the second source, which I spoke, the petrochemical based, the polyester and nylon, technically they are families from the PET. So these are not sustainable, but since our first primary goal is to shift the customer from traditional silk, the cruel based silk, to ethical silk. So the polyester base gives a exact texture, feel, and output as a traditional silk. And once they shift from the traditional silk to artificial silk, then we even introduce them the option of plant-based silk. So in my store, almost 60% of the products are plant-based silk and 40% are artificial silk based. That's because of the scope. There is limitation in our scope to offer the alternate. So that's why we are keeping both this, but down the line, our plans and our mission is to only have
Let me jump in there.
plant-based.
One jump in there because
And
I love that you
as
broke
I
that down
mentioned,
for us because I think for a lot of
and
people, they're trying to understand like what do we mean by silk? And you mentioned the feel that, the alternative silks have a
oh,
different feel. Are you having trouble hearing me?
now it's
So, one thing I think was interesting that you mentioned are the plant-based silks and the kind of alternative. Now, when you mentioned, the alternatives kind of have a little bit more of that feel of silk and so forth. Can you break that down? Like, what are people looking for? What makes something a vegan silk versus just a traditional polyester or just a traditional, nylon or something like that? Like, is it the way it's processed? Is it the way that it's used? You give me a little bit of that kind of understanding because I know there's a lot of similar ingredients that will come out with a different name. This will be called silk. This will be called vegan leather. This will be called vegan this. What makes it kind of silk or go into that line of silk?
so. Uh, to make it more simpler, I would like to explain that um, silk, the traditional silk on price points are the most expensive ones. And next comes the plant-based silk. They are like 40% less than the traditional silk from the price points. And from next, the polyester-based silk are even more cheaper. Now, when people are trying to go for alternates, so they have certain specific requirements. Like certain people, they want little crispy texture and little, stiff texture. So then they would opt for polyester or nylon-based silk because they have that crispness in the fabric. And those people who are looking for more soft and flowy kind of texture, they would always go for plant-based silk. So, as far as vegan silk is concerned, as far as my my point of view and my thought process, a vegan silk should be only from source from plants, not from any kind of other fibers. So, but here, since it's a very new subject, it's very difficult to make this bring this differentiation and try to endorse the product to the customers. So, what we do is anything which is cruelty free has been categorized as vegan, and rest all which is extracted from silkworm is categorized as traditional silk. And now, plant-based silks are the most, according to the feel, texture, color brilliancy, plant-based silks are the best, and they are very close to the traditional silk because both are naturally sourced, and the behavior, the texture, and the properties are almost the same. Yeah, of course. Traditional silks are quite light in weight and they are like more smooth and more thin. But plant-based silk are almost like I can say 95% close to them. But of course, since the source is different, there would be little difference. They are a little bit heavy than in comparison to the plant-based. So these are the differences, and according to this, customers make their
Okay.
choices.
And that makes sense. I think a lot of times, when we talk alternatives, sometimes people don't know what to expect. They don't know how close it is, how different it is. And I also think one thing that's interesting, especially as we're seeing more and more alternatives to really everything, from food all the way to, fabrics and materials, I think sometimes we also don't talk about the benefits that these alternatives offer. I think sometimes we're always comparing them as if they're less than the original in a sense. But I wonder if you want to touch on some of that because I do think we're finding that some of the alternatives are really giving people other options that maybe they didn't have before. And I don't know if you feel the same in your business.
Yes, so the moment when I decided to leave the traditional silk because it was cruel, to make one silk sari and Indian silk saris, you need to boil 20,000 silkworms. So that was like a nightmare for me. And, that particular stage, I was not even able to sleep for so many days unless and until I finally decided to quit. So plant-based silk is the one of the most versatile fabric, and in the coming years, maybe another next 10, 15 years, the whole textile industry will be revolutionized. Already the revolution is happening because plant-based silk is very skin friendly, they are biodegradable, they are sustainable, and they give the same brilliancy output, and all those output can be achieved through a plant-based thing. Of course, the other option, the artificial base, is actually the most highest selling in almost all the countries because of the fast fashion. But slowly, many countries have understood that fast fashion is not good for the environment. So the only alternate which is there in front of the whole world is plant-based. And plant-based is the future of all the fashion hubs and all the fashion production hubs. Because from all aspects, it clicks all the check boxes, and there is no, I don't find anything, drawbacks in the plant-based thing compared to the other two sources.
That's good to hear because I think that's the thing that a lot of people have questions or wondering. Now, are you seeing that people are incorporating these, in worldwide fashion? You talked about saris and using them for specifically in India, but are you seeing people, come to you and getting it shipped to the U.S. because they're using it for dresses, or getting it shipped to Europe for traditional, either weddings and activities and around the world?
Yes. So since when I started the concept of vegan silk, I had to start for the Indian wear. But in last 2 years, I have started working on fabrics, and I have taken a step ahead. Apart from using vegan silk, I have started using natural dyes. Dyes which are extracted naturally, like from the natural sources, like using indigo, using black color extracted by fermenting iron and jaggery, then using pomegranate skin peel to extract yellow color, then we're using madder roots to extract red color. So what we have started doing is we started working on the sustainability now. So plant-based silk is extracted from plant source, and on that we are using all natural ingredients to dye, to do hand printing. India is known for its exclusive block printing. It's there since like Indus Valley civilization. So we are using all those organic techniques on plant-based. Initially, in the industry, they have been using all traditional silk, but I have started using all these craft on plant-based silk. Now, what is happening is countries like US and UK, they are very much interested in all those fashion fabrics and clothing which carries organic dyes. So I have foreseen that since already I have some good business in these two countries, majorly in US, where I ship wedding wears and Indian ethnic wears to non-resident Indians living in US. In huge numbers, I'm shipping, and understanding their customer behavior pattern, I predicted that I can even cater to the local Americans and local Europeans who show a lot of interest in sustainable fabrics. In last 2 years, I have been deeply working on this, and I'm trying to make perfect products to match the export standards and to achieve the customer expectations.
I'm really glad that you gave us that background because one of the things that happens, when people are listening to this podcast, some people are maybe looking for the material themselves. Maybe some people are in the fashion industry and they don't realize that they can reach out to you. But one thing I love about what you're sharing is how you're building your business kind of step by step and getting closer and closer to that sustainable mark. I think for a lot of people, when they start their businesses or they make this transition, they think they have to do everything and it has to be perfect, before they launch. And, I think that can be a misstep for a lot of entrepreneurs, as opposed to saying, okay, let me get an alternative in. Let's check the market, see what the demand is. Okay, let's see if we can build the demand on a more sustainable product. Okay, now that we're on a more sustainable product, let's look upstream and make sure that everything, in that supply chain, is more and more sustainable, more and more organic. So I love that your business is kind of taking those steps to get there. And I think for anyone who's listening, watching this, I'm hoping they're willing to take that step by step process, because we want businesses to not only make this leap, but we want businesses to make this leap in a very, in a way that, is sustainable for the business too. And I think that's something that sometimes people forget. How did you kind of feel comfortable and not feel anxious, through this process, knowing that, yes, it would take steps? How did you pace yourself and have the patience to make sure you're rolling this out as demand builds?
So when I started the whole thing about starting the vegan silk, initially it was very very difficult because all the artisans whom I approached who were making on silk, I was requesting them to make on vegan silk, and they were not ready to do. So the whole supply chain, right from the top of the supply chain and the end of the supply chain, were not supporting me. Here, my customers who entered my store, they were asking for traditional silk, and it was very difficult to initially manage. The first 2 3 years was very very difficult. And when I thought that now it's going to go in 2021, I thought that everything will go right, and that's the time when the pandemic hit us very badly. But then it was I just felt that this is nothing under my control, and that's the time when I started working even more hard to get even more better alternatives, to develop more versatile fabrics, match the traditional silk. And 2021-22, a lot of R&D was done, and I started sourcing more fabrics and uh, more fashionable products which could match the customer satisfaction. Yes, the whole journey was quite interesting and with a lot of challenge. But then, as I said, you people kept on passing a lot of comments, but I held on to what I wanted to follow. And today it's like, slowly everything is like, the flavor is spreading. uh, in this 7 years of experience, I can tell you that, when a small child is born, a child is not born with all those intelligence and all those actions. It is always, slowly they learn one by one. Like, slowly they try to lift their hands, then they start walking, and slowly they start speaking. So it's like, you need to understand the kid, try to mold, try to help the kid, and that's how slowly it grows. And one fine day it becomes a young man. So the same thing applies over here in my business. If I would have imposed all my customers that right on the first day, I know I try to sell them a sustainable product. For them, going cruelty free itself is a very big, it's a very big thing to digest. And on that point, if I start endorsing sustainable products, it will be very difficult for them to accept it. A place where silk is being used even in rituals, silk used in wedding occasions, and silk used even in formal occasions. In such kind of markets, if I try to impose such highly sustainable products, that would have been very difficult for the customers to accept. So I had a very simple approach to all my customers, that something I'm giving you better, try this and check. If you like this, then you buy some more from me. So it is always like I have been telling my customers that there are good options, there are better choices. You are going to have a pocket friendly choice also as well. So there were many things I had to educate them. So my store was not a normal store. My store was like more like a school where customers come, and then I explain them how this fabric is made, what are the contents of this fabric, and what is the plant-based fabric, what is microfiber-based fabric. And there is one big marketing gimmick happening in India, because brands like us, there are many other brands who have come up with a so-called peace silk. They claim that to be a cruelty-free silk extracted post the moth emerges from the cocoon. That's a very big challenge which we are facing at present in the market. So again, now whenever the customer comes, they ask like, what is peace silk, or what is ahimsa silk, or what is airy silk? So I need to explain them that that is not a cruelty-free. It is cruel-based silk. So much is happening. The PETA has already certified us. The BWC of India, Beauty Without Cruelty of India, is an animal rights organization. They have certified our brand. So after all this certification and our experience, the store is not just the store. The store is a school where truth and transparency is shown to the customers, and then only the product is being offered to them. And the product is no more a product. It is bunch of emotions. It is a bunch of values. Because customers who come there, 80% of my customers come there with only one notion, that this is the only store which will give me 100% cruelty free products, because they know about me also, they know about my journey, and they know everything, that this guy has left crores, millions of rupees business just because it is cruel based. So it is like a learning experience every day. And here there is no there is no marketing, or there is no pressure selling. It is clear, a bunch of emotions which we show this to the customers, and that's how the customers enjoy shopping in my store. There are instances where I've seen customers crying in my store. They tell me that, Sandeep, for 25 years I have not worn a sari or a silk garment because they are made cruelly. The day when I came across your brand on the online, and when I read your company and your brand, the history, I was just, she felt elated, and immediately she visited my store. And in the store itself, they become so emotional, and then they like, from now onwards, I can shop happily, and I can again wear the silk sari which they love to wear. So this is what happens in my store. Every day there's a new story for a customer, and every day it's a new story even for me. It's a learning experience, complete learning experience.
That is beautiful to hear. It really is, because not only are you helping people who had that need, you're also,
Yeah.
fulfilling your lifelong dream, which is a beautiful thing. Is it a little bit better now?
Can you repeat once?
Yeah. I was saying it's great to not only hear about your journey, it's great to hear about your customers' journey. How so many of them are like, I couldn't wear it because of my ethics, my belief, and you're now, helping them, wear these beautiful saris, wear something for their traditions, for the occasions that they want to celebrate, feel beautiful, but also feel good about, what they purchased and that journey. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I said, you the initial years, we were not even doing break evens. We were not making profits and not even break evens. But why I held on to this was, when I came across such customers, such young girls in the age of 28 and 30 years, coming and sharing that they don't want to wear silk saris in their wedding. And they found me. In fact, they were literally hunting. I mean, the bride is living in US. She is googling up for any brand who can make cruelty free silk. She finds my brand, and then she calls up their parents and relatives in India and tell them to go and find out what is this brand. Is it truly a vegan brand? So such kind of experience, such kind of customers who are so much aligned to ethical lifestyle, conscious lifestyle, and more of a spiritual kind of alignment is there. So when I see all this, somewhere I feel that, yes, I'm not making on break even. It's fine, that I can do anytime in future. But what I'm doing, the satisfaction, uh, the inner satisfaction which I get when I'm able to serve all the customers for their one of the most auspicious moment, has been driving me really fast.
It's good to hear. One thing I want to ask you, since you're in that kind of space, is a lot of the people listen to our podcast are entrepreneurs. They're looking for advice. They may be in a similar space as you, where they're doing something that's a little bit hard. Maybe the market's not responding. Maybe their suppliers, are silently protesting and not helping them. Do you have any advice for any entrepreneur that's making this leap, making a change in their industry, or leaving behind a lucrative business and jumping into something that is cruelty free and sustainable? Do you have any advice for them if they're struggling right now?
Yeah. So when I when I decided this, that I'm going to quit and I'm going to start this cruelty-free silk, someone told me that, a wise person, I'm not able to recall, that person just told me one single thing, that you have disrupted the industry. The word disrupted. So, in India, any textile business, if you see a good textile store, it will first concentrate only on silk, and all other products will be just like, secondary, and secondary aspect. And when I decided to do this, if I have thought of making money or making profits in the initial stage itself, probably in within 2 or 3 years I would have closed the whole business, and this brand would have vanished. But I held on to only my value, and the value was value for the life. So in my model, I have made a model of my business now. First, the customer should get more of value and emotions. That has to be satisfying rather than just the product. The product and utility will always come off. See, nobody's going to give a bad product in this today's world. Today's world is very transparent, globally connected. Everything is so transparent. You cannot endorse any uh, any wrong product, or uh, any product which doesn't have good utility. So utility wise, all will be taken care. But the primary thing is emotions and values. Second, in your process, how are you benefiting the ecosystem? The ecosystem comprises of the other living beings as well as the human beings. In my module, I have really taken care about the ecosystem by promoting the sustainable fabrics, and the human beings part, I have been socially supporting all my artisans. So giving when I'm making craft based product, all my vegan silk carries craft based product. So these craft based are nothing but it's done purely by skill and art. And these artisans, this is the only livelihood they have by doing all this hand printing, tie and dye, organic printing. So for them, they are doing this for generations and generations. And when we promote these kind of products, when we bring these kind of crafts on our fabric, we are giving them a support. We are creating a support system for that also. So my message to all the entrepreneurs is that yes, we need profits to run our business, to for our livelihood, but we should make sure that we take care of the ecosystem, both the environment and other living beings, as well as the fellow human beings who deserve a better life. This is my module, and that's how I'm working towards it even today, and my future also. I'm going to be working on these values. This is my message to all the entrepreneurs.
That's a beautiful message. Thank you for sharing that. Maybe as we wrap up today's session, let's give everybody website, social media, however you want them to connect with you if they're interested in, maybe getting some of these fabrics, maybe they have a need or occasion coming up, how they should reach out to you. Or if somebody is in the fashion industry themselves and they'd like to incorporate your fabrics into their work, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can connect through my website. My website is handandyans.com, www.handandyans.com. Then they can connect me through my Instagram page. Hand and Yans is my Instagram page. Then my LinkedIn profile is, I'm very active on my LinkedIn. So my personal profile is M Sandip Kumar on LinkedIn, and they can also, well, all these platforms, my personal number is mentioned, so they can always directly get in touch with me through WhatsApp or direct calling also.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk. I feel a little more educated as well because I was curious about like what's the difference and what's this and how does it work. So it was great to not only the work that you're doing, but the education that you're giving a lot of us, because we don't all know and understand how not only some of these products are made, but what can make them more sustainable. Because sometimes like you mentioned before, there are products that people will say, well, they're kind of vegan, but they're really not cruelty free. And it gets a little muddy in there. So it's good to have someone like you who can help us navigate that. And then I also just love how much you're willing to share, how not only passionate you are about this, but how your values drive your decisions, drive how you run your business and how you take care of your artisans and also how do you take care of your customers. So it is a beautiful journey that you've been on. I wish you all the best. And I'm really hoping, we can keep in touch and hear about all the great work you're doing as you continue to disrupt the industry,
Yes.
and not only support people locally there in India, but helping people worldwide. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah. Yeah. Before even I conclude, I would just like to tell
Mhm.
one thing that, um, every, we as human beings, if we start thinking, good for anything in this world, even the five elements, air, water, fire, earth, and space, then all the living beings, both the animal kingdom and even the plant kingdom, then, thinking about the fellow beings, if we start thinking all these three, you know, as a family, and we start doing all our actions are, done in a such a way that we don't harm them in any way. Of course, for our livelihood, whatever we have to do, we should do. But something above that, we can always, measure and do it. If we just follow this one value in our life, both in our professional life, in our business life, and in our personal life, things will be sorted out so good, and and this place will be a better place to live, and the coming generation will not feel bad for what we have done, because we don't have rights to uh, create havoc before we leave, and the coming generation finds so difficult, life difficult. So this is what I want to tell before I conclude. And absolutely, I'm really thankful and honored to be with you, Stephanie, in this podcast. And thanks for giving an opportunity to come on this platform and share my journey and my thoughts. And this is really a big thing for me, because I believe that we should always share our thoughts, and we will always develop more building on the same values. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thanks a lot. Namaskar.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you, everybody who watched this, who watches us, whether you're watching the video or listening to us in the podcast. These interviews are really just a great way to get introduced to people who are doing some really amazing things around the world. And sometimes we don't know about. And I'm so happy that you reached out for this podcast, because what you're doing, we need to make sure the world knows about it, because it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it is just a great thing. And also, as we even talk here today in this session, I can feel where your heart is. I can feel how important this is to you, and allowing all of us to kind of tap into that energy that you're putting out there, is just wonderful. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks. Looking forward soon for another podcast.
Absolutely.
Because vegan and sustainability, once you move towards vegan, you automatically move steps towards sustainability, and sustainability is a very huge subject which I'm working on already. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a ton for making me a part of this podcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
being here.